You're fired. Those two words still echo in my mind as I recall the smirk on Vivian's face that day. My own stepsister, looking down at me from behind our father's mahogany desk, a desk I'd sat across from for 17 years as we built Armstrong Enterprises together. The boardroom fell silent. No one dared to make eye contact with me. Just like that, nearly 2 decades of dedication erased with a flick of her manicured hand. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, you know that hollow feeling that starts in your chest and spreads until you can barely breathe. But what Vivian didn't realize that day was that by firing me, she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Before I tell you how I turned this betrayal into the sweetest revenge, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. I'm Marcus Wright, and until 3 months ago, I was the Chief Operations Officer at Armstrong Enterprises, a tech conglomerate that my father Robert built from nothing. My journey with the company started when I was just a college graduate with big ideas and a father who believed in me. For 17 years, I poured everything into that company. The late nights, the missed vacations, the strain on relationships. I sacrificed it all because I believed in what we were building. Then there was Vivian Armstrong, my stepsister, technically. Her mother Diana had been my father's mistress during his marriage to my mother Eleanor. Growing up, our family dynamic was complicated to say the least. Diana somehow convinced my father that Vivian was his daughter from their affair, and after my parents' bitter divorce, he eventually married Diana, bringing 8-year-old Vivian into our lives. What most people don't know is that my mother Eleanor found out she was pregnant with me shortly after Diana had Vivian. But by then, the divorce was already finalized. My mother, heartbroken and proud, chose to raise me on her own, only allowing me to see my father on scheduled visits. Despite this, Dad made sure I had a place at Armstrong Enterprises when I was old enough. He believed families should stick together in business regardless of the personal complications. As we grew up, Vivian always carried herself with an air of entitlement. She breezed through the company ranks with minimal effort while I worked twice as hard to prove myself. Despite this, I became her reluctant mentor. I taught her everything about the industry, our products, our clients. I showed her how to navigate board politics, how to close impossible deals. She absorbed it all with keen interest, though I sometimes caught glimpses of resentment in her eyes when others praised my work. When Dad died unexpectedly of a heart attack last year, the board appointed Vivian as CEO, a decision that shocked everyone in the industry. I had been the obvious choice with my extensive experience and proven track record, but Vivian had somehow convinced the board that she was the rightful heir to the Armstrong legacy. I swallowed my pride and congratulated her, promising to support her leadership for the sake of my father's memory. Then came that fateful Monday morning. Vivian called an emergency board meeting. I arrived early as always, laptop in hand, prepared to discuss our quarterly projections. She walked in with HR and legal representatives, not a good sign. Without so much as a preamble, she announced that effective immediately, I was terminated from Armstrong Enterprises for strategic differences in vision and creating a hostile work environment. It was laughable. Anyone who knew me understood that I lived and breathed collaboration, but I could see in the uncomfortable glances of board members that they wouldn't challenge her. She was the CEO now, and more importantly to some, she was Robert Armstrong's daughter. Or so everyone thought. What Vivian didn't know, what no one knew except my mother and me, was that 3 weeks before her death last year, my mother revealed something that changed everything. On her deathbed, Mom confessed that years ago, Diana had drunkenly admitted that Vivian wasn't actually my father's biological child. Diana had been seeing multiple men at the time and seized the opportunity to secure a wealthy future when she discovered she was pregnant. My father never knew. He went to his grave believing Vivian was his flesh and blood. As security escorted me from the building that day, carrying my personal items in a cardboard box like some disgraced employee, I made a decision. This wasn't just about getting my job back. This was about justice, for me, for my mother who suffered in silence as Diana paraded around as Robert's chosen woman, and for my father who had been deceived his entire life. The first weeks after my firing were the darkest. I sat in my apartment staring at walls, replaying every interaction with Vivian, wondering if I could have seen this coming. My phone rang constantly. Colleagues, industry friends, reporters looking for the inside scoop on my dramatic exit. I ignored them all. I needed time to think, to plan. Then came the call that changed everything. It was Dr. Jensen, my father's personal physician for decades. "Marcus," he said, "I heard what happened. It's not right. There's something you should know. Your father had some tests done before he died. Medical things I couldn't share before, but given the circumstances, I think you should come to my office. Those tests revealed that my father had a rare genetic condition, one that would have been passed to his biological children. I had been tested years ago at his insistence and carried the marker." Vivian, according to her medical records that my father had authorized Dr. Jensen to review, did not. With this piece of medical evidence in hand, I began to build my case quietly. I didn't want money or revenge, I wanted truth. I wanted the company that my father built to be led by someone who actually carried his legacy, not someone who had manipulated their way to the top based on a lifetime of lies. Meanwhile, Armstrong Enterprises began to stumble under Vivian's leadership. She had the title, but lacked the essential understanding of our operations that comes from years in the trenches. Major clients grew dissatisfied as promises went unfulfilled. Innovation stagnated. Stock prices began to dip. I watched from a distance as I methodically built something new. Using my industry connections and reputation, I founded Meridian Technologies, a leaner, more innovative competitor to Armstrong. I approached the situation strategically, targeting Armstrong's underserved clients and offering solutions that Vivian couldn't match. I recruited top talent who had grown disillusioned under her leadership, including several key engineers who had been with Armstrong since the beginning. Within 3 months, Meridian secured 3 major contracts that Armstrong had lost due to Vivian's mismanagement. The industry took notice. Articles began appearing in tech publications contrasting my leadership style with Vivian's, questioning her qualifications and decisions. Investors grew nervous. Board members began calling me privately, expressing concerns about the company's direction. All the while, I kept the truth about Vivian's parentage to myself. It was my nuclear option, one I hoped I wouldn't need to use. This wasn't about humiliating her publicly, it was about restoring what was rightfully mine. 6 months after my termination, Armstrong Enterprises faced its biggest crisis. A major software update to their flagship product failed catastrophically, compromising client data across multiple industries. It was exactly the kind of disaster I had repeatedly warned about in my final months at the company, warnings Vivian had dismissed as overcaution. As Armstrong's stock plummeted, I received an unexpected visitor at Meridian's headquarters. It was Thomas Keller, chairman of Armstrong's board and my father's oldest friend. "This has gone far enough, Marcus," he said gravely. "The company is in freefall. We need you back." I leaned back in my chair. "Tom, I appreciate the sentiment, but Vivian made it clear I'm not welcome there. The board is prepared to overrule her. We can force a vote of no confidence." I shook my head. "That's not how I want a return. There's something more fundamental that needs to be addressed first." That's when I shared what I knew about Vivian's true parentage, showing him the medical records, the timeline, and a DNA test I had privately conducted using a sample from my father's stored tissue at the hospital and a glass Vivian had drunk from at a recent industry event. Tom's face went ashen. "This will destroy her, Marcus." "It's not about destroying anyone," I replied. "It's about the truth. My father built that company from nothing. He was deceived into believing Vivian was his daughter. The board made her CEO based on that deception. Every day she sits in that office is another day the company moves further from his vision." After a long silence, Tom nodded. "I'll arrange a private board meeting. Both of you need to be there." The following week, I walked back into Armstrong Enterprises for the first time since being escorted out. The employees who recognized me in the lobby whispered behind their hands. I kept my head high as I made my way to the boardroom where Vivian and the entire board waited. Vivian stood up as soon as I entered. "What is this about? Why is he here?" Her voice carried the same imperious tone she'd used when firing me. "Sit down, Vivian," Tom said firmly. "Marcus has information that affects the future of this company." For the next 30 minutes, I methodically presented the evidence, the medical records, the timeline of my mother's revelations, the DNA test results. With each slide, Vivian's face grew paler, her composure cracking. "This is absurd," she finally sputtered. "A desperate attempt to undermine me because he couldn't handle reporting to a woman. My mother would never—" "Your mother has already confirmed it," I interrupted quietly, nodding to Tom, who opened the door. Diana walked in, looking years older than when I'd last seen her. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her normally perfect appearance disheveled. "Is it true?" Vivian demanded, her voice breaking. Diana couldn't meet her daughter's eyes. "I never thought it would go this far. Robert was kind to us. He gave us a good life. I just wanted— You lied to me my entire life." Vivian's voice rose to a shout. "You let me believe Robert was my father? That this company was my birthright?" Diana flinched. "I did what I thought was best for us." The boardroom fell silent. The members exchanged uncomfortable glances as the implications became clear. Vivian wasn't Robert Armstrong's daughter. She had no biological claim to the Armstrong legacy or company. "Given these extraordinary circumstances," Tom finally said, breaking the heavy silence, "the board needs to reevaluate the leadership of Armstrong Enterprises. I propose an immediate vote." Within the hour, the board unanimously voted to reinstate me as CEO and accept Vivian's resignation. As she stormed out of the boardroom, she paused at the door and turned to me with tears of rage in her eyes. "You planned this all along, didn't you? You could have exposed me immediately, but you waited until I failed so you could humiliate me completely." I met her gaze steadily. "No, Vivian. I waited because I wanted to believe you could lead this company successfully despite everything. I gave you the chance to prove yourself on merit alone. You're the one who chose to fire me out of fear that I would overshadow you. You created your own downfall." Today, 1 year later, Armstrong Enterprises has not only recovered but thrived under my leadership. We've repaired relationships with clients, launched innovative new products, and restored our reputation in the industry. Our stock has hit record highs, and employee satisfaction scores are the best they've been in a decade. As for Vivian, I didn't cast her out entirely. Despite everything, we grew up together. After some time and intensive family therapy, I offered her a position heading our charitable foundation, a role that suits her social skills and gives her purpose outside the corporate structure she was never truly prepared for. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about creating something so successful that their actions are revealed as the desperate moves they always were. 17 years of experience taught me patience, strategy, and the understanding that true leadership isn't about titles or bloodlines. It's about vision, integrity, and the ability to build rather than tear down. If there's one lesson I want you to take from my story, it's this. When someone tries to push you down, don't just focus on getting back up. Focus on rising so high that they have to look up to see you. And remember, the truth always finds its way to the surface. Sometimes it just needs a little help. If you enjoyed this story of corporate intrigue and family secrets, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life business lessons. Drop a comment below if you've ever had to overcome betrayal in your professional life. Remember, sometimes being fired isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something greater.